I still remember the day my life unraveled like a frayed thread, leaving me staring at the fragments of what was once a whole. It was the morning I received the news that would shake the very foundation of my existence, the diagnosis that changed everything. HIV positive. My heart sank as if it had been punched into oblivion, like all the hope and dreams I'd built over the years were suffocating under the weight of reality. The room around me began to blur, and for a moment I was consumed by the crushing feeling of being lost without direction or purpose. But amidst the chaos, one thought kept echoing in my mind. What now? As I stood there, frozen in shock, trying to wrap my head around this new reality, it hit me like a ton of bricks I'd been ignoring, that nagging voice within me, whispering my true identity for years. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks blurred into months, something unexpected began to stir deep within me. It started as a faint spark, one that grew brighter with each passing day. I couldn't quite put my finger on it at first. Maybe it was the way the sunlight seemed to dance in the corner of my eye, or the gentle touch of strangers' hands on mine when they asked about my status. Yes, that painful, judgmental reality check. Whatever it was, this spark began to ignite a fire within me. I found myself daydreaming about living an authentic life free from the constraints of societal expectations and fear-driven hiding. But there were obstacles, like walls erected by the past, refusing to let me see what lay ahead. It wasn't until my grandmother called me for the first time in years that I realized I was no longer alone in this fight. She told me about a support group her friend had formed, one where people could share their stories without fear of judgment. As our conversation wrapped up and we said goodbye over the phone, something shifted inside me. It felt like the gates to my heart swung open, allowing this stranger-turned ally into my life. With each passing day, I found myself seeking out more connections, a thread weaving its way through the lives of those around me. My journey of self-discovery was winding and full of unexpected detours, but one moment stands out above all else: that fateful evening when our eyes first locked in a crowded room. It felt like time had frozen, like the world was holding its breath, as if to say, "This is it." His name was Alex, and there was something in his eyes that spoke volumes about the person he truly was beneath the surface. For me, this moment marked a turning point. I realized that finding myself wasn't just about accepting who I was, but also embracing the possibility of who others could be for me. Now, when looking back on how far we've come, it's hard not to see the universe conspiring to bring us together at exactly the right time. Yet, what changed my life? Was it Alex himself, or something deeper, a realization that I deserved love and happiness just as much as anyone else? Or perhaps it was simply the courage to let go of fear and stand in front of myself, with an open heart ready for anything. As I navigated this uncharted territory of self-discovery, I began to notice subtle shifts within myself, a newfound confidence that crept into my steps, a voice that spoke up more clearly in crowded rooms, and a sense of purpose that guided me through life's twists and turns. It was as if the person I had been trying to find for so long was finally beginning to emerge from the shadows. And yet, despite these changes, there were still moments when fear and doubt crept back in. Like the night I received an eviction notice for my apartment due to unpaid rent. The sound of the door slamming shut behind me still echoes in my mind, a harsh reminder that sometimes life can be cruel and unforgiving. But as I stood on the sidewalk, suitcase by my side, trying to make sense of this unexpected turn of events, something unexpected happened. Strangers began to approach me with kindness and understanding. They asked if I was okay, offered words of comfort, and even handed over some cash for a meal. These small acts of humanity reminded me that there were still good people in the world, ones who refused to let fear divide us. It was during this time that I stumbled upon a community of people like myself, those living with HIV/AIDS. They welcomed me with open arms, sharing their stories and experiences without hesitation or judgment. For the first time in my life, I felt seen and understood by someone who knew exactly what I was going through. We bonded over our shared struggles and vulnerabilities, forming an unbreakable bond that went beyond words. But what struck me most about this community was their unwavering optimism, a sense of hope and resilience that inspired me to keep pushing forward despite the obstacles in my path. They taught me that even in the darkest moments, there is always a way out, always a glimmer of light on the horizon. And it was this message of hope that I carried with me as I continued on my journey. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks gave way to months, I began to notice a shift within myself, one that felt almost imperceptible at first, but grew stronger with each passing day. It was as if I had finally found my footing, like I had stumbled upon a hidden path that led me back to myself. And it was this sense of self-awareness that would ultimately lead me to Alex, the person who would change everything all over again. But before we met, there were still so many questions. What did it mean to be in love with someone who didn't understand my disease? Would I ever be able to let go of the fear that had held me back for so long? Could I trust myself and others enough to take a chance on something real? These were the questions that kept me up at night, the ones that haunted my dreams and filled my waking hours with anxiety. It was during this time of uncertainty that I received an invitation to attend a LGBTQ+ conference in New York City, a place where people from all walks of life would gather to share their stories, find community, and celebrate their identities. I had always been drawn to the idea of self-expression and acceptance, but something about this invitation felt different. Maybe it was the sense of possibility that hung in the air, or perhaps it was the hope that I might finally find what I was searching for, a place where I could be myself without fear of judgment. As I stepped off the plane and onto American soil, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement and trepidation. The city was alive with energy, pulsing through my veins like adrenaline. I spent my days attending workshops on mental health and wellness, networking with others who shared similar experiences, and participating in panel discussions that challenged societal norms and expectations. It was during one of these panels that I first saw him, Alex, the person who would change everything all over again. There was something about him that caught my attention, a spark in his eyes that seemed to dance across the room, a confidence that radiated from his very being. I watched as he shared his story with the group, speaking with conviction and clarity about his experiences as a queer man living with HIV/AIDS. As he spoke, I felt a sense of recognition wash over me, like I was seeing myself in him, like our struggles and triumphs were somehow intertwined. As the conference came to a close, I found myself feeling more connected to this stranger than I ever had to anyone before. It was as if we shared a secret language, one that only we could understand. And yet, Despite this deep connection, I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something missing, like a piece of me was still locked away, waiting to be revealed. As I made my way through the crowds, searching for Alex in the hopes of striking up a conversation, our eyes finally met across the room. Time seemed to slow as we locked gazes, the air around us thickening with tension. It was as if the universe had brought us together for this one reason alone, to see if there was something real between us, something that could bridge the gaps of fear and uncertainty that had held me back for so long. And then, in an instant, everything changed. Alex smiled at me, a warm and genuine smile that seemed to light up the entire room. I felt my heart skip a beat as he approached me, his eyes never leaving mine. It was like I was drowning in their depths, like I was home. And in that moment, I knew that I had found what I had been searching for all along, a sense of belonging, a sense of self, and a love that would change my life forever. As we talked, I felt like I was finally seeing Alex for who he truly was, not just the person I had met at the conference, but the complex web of experiences and emotions that made him tick. He spoke with a vulnerability that resonated deeply with me, sharing stories about his struggles with HIV/AIDS, his fears and doubts, and his hopes and dreams. And as he spoke, I found myself pouring out my own heart, sharing my own stories of struggle and resilience. The conversation flowed effortlessly, like we had known each other for years. We laughed together, supported each other, and connected on a deep level that I couldn't quite explain. It was as if we had both been searching for this moment, this connection, our whole lives. And when the conference finally came to an end, Alex asked me if I wanted to grab coffee with him, if I wanted to keep exploring this newfound connection. I nodded eagerly, my heart racing with excitement. As we walked out of the venue into the bright lights and bustling streets of New York City, I felt like I was walking on air. The world seemed to stretch out before us like a limitless possibilities, full of promise and potential. And as we sat down at a small cafe, sipping our coffee and getting to know each other better, I knew that this was just the beginning. Over the next few weeks, Alex and I spent every spare moment together. We explored the city, trying new foods and visiting new landmarks. We talked about our hopes and dreams, our fears and doubts. And as we got to know each other, I realized that we shared so much more than just a connection. We shared a deep understanding of each other's struggles and triumphs. As the days turned into weeks, our relationship began to blossom in ways I never could have imagined. We laughed together, cried together, and supported each other through thick and thin. And as we navigated the ups and downs of life together, I knew that I had found my partner, my confidant, and my best friend. But even as our relationship deepened, there were still challenges to overcome. There were moments when fear and doubt crept in, when the weight of Alex's disease threatened to suffocate us both. And there were times when we disagreed, when our differences seemed insurmountable. Yet through it all, our love remained strong. We held onto each other, supporting each other every step of the way. And as we navigated the complexities of life together, I knew that our love was the anchor that kept us grounded, the safe haven where we could always find peace and comfort. As the months went by, Alex's health continued to be a challenge. His disease had progressed, and he faced new struggles with each passing day. There were times when he felt like giving up, when the pain and fatigue seemed too much to bear. But I was always there for him, holding his hand and supporting him through the darkest of times. I remembered the countless nights we spent in the hospital together, watching over him as he fought for his life. I remembered the way he would smile weakly at me, even when he couldn't speak. And I remembered the way my heart would swell with love and determination, knowing that I had to be there for him. Despite the challenges, our relationship continued to grow stronger. We found ways to make the most of each day, even on the toughest days. We took long walks, held hands, and laughed together, trying to find joy in every moment. One day, Alex told me that he wanted to take a trip with me, just the two of us, before his health took another turn for the worse. I was hesitant at first, knowing that it would be a risk for him, but he was insistent. And so we planned our trip, choosing a beautiful beach destination where we could relax and enjoy each other's company. The day of our departure arrived, and we set off on an adventure that neither of us would ever forget. As we walked along the beach, hand in hand, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The sun was shining, the waves were crashing, and Alex was smiling at me with a warmth and happiness that I had never seen before. We spent our days lounging on the beach, watching the sunset, and talking about our dreams and aspirations. We laughed and joked, and just enjoyed each other's company. And as we sat together on the sand, I knew that this was what life was all about, finding joy in every moment and cherishing the time we have with those we love. As the sun began to set on our final day together, Alex turned to me and said, "I'm so grateful for you. You've been my rock, my partner, and my best friend. I don't know what I would do without you." I smiled, feeling my heart overflow with love and emotion, and replied, "You'll never have to find out because I'll always be here for you." And as we hugged each other tightly, I knew that our love would endure, even in the face of adversity. We had faced challenges together, and we had come out stronger on the other side. And as we looked out at the sunset, I knew that our love would continue to shine bright, a beacon of hope and inspiration for all those around us.